so we can hopefully dive into more questions if there are any. But today we are talking about U.S. school accreditation. I know um, it's different than a lot of other places in the world, so I think this is quite important for people that are maybe not familiar or very used to the U.S. Education system to understand what it means because it's very often to hear credits or accreditation or terms like this. And so sometimes we don't really fully understand what that means. Not everyone does. Actually, people in the US don't always understand that as well. So today we're talking about what that is, and it's for educators, agents, families, school students, really anyone who's interested in learning about what does it mean to be accredited in the U.S. So it won't be that long, the talk, and so I'm going to try to get through some very main points very quickly, and so hopefully we'll have plenty of time to answer questions or have a discussion at the end. So to start I also want to just do a quick introduction of myself. Who is talking to you here today? My name is Kevin Ferrone. I am the head of school at a virtual school called Polaris Global Academy. I've been uh, in international education for about 20 plus years. I lived abroad for a number of years, mostly in Asian countries. I have founded 3 different virtual schools, and all of those virtual schools, um, even if they were abroad or in the United States, were all focused on helping students make transitions to U.S. universities. So that's really my area of specialty. Um, I've taught previously in international schools in the United States and abroad. And my expertise is really in virtual learning, in school leadership, as well as U.S. university college admissions. And I have a bachelor's from Brown University, a master's in global education from University of Illinois. So that's me. So as I mentioned today, we're really going to focus on 4 overall things, and I'll go through each of them pretty quickly. The first is just an overview of the U.S. accreditation system. What is it? And then some types of accreditations so you can understand what's out there, and then what those different types actually mean. I also want to share something about how schools gain accreditation so you can understand what is that process like, right? Is it, something that you sign up for and pay for, or, there's something more to it? And then I want to share what PGA's accreditations are, PGA being Polaris Global Academy, our school, uh, because I think it's also important for people to understand different schools, such as virtual schools that are different than traditional schools. What types of accreditations should they have, and what should you be looking for in a school if it is an online school or a physical school? What accreditations do you want to ask the school if they have, or what should you be looking for? So this is what we're covering today. So first, what is it, right? The most important thing on this slide that I want to highlight is this green box here that it's a school-based review process. What this means is that when a school gains accreditation, the accreditor, the independent body that is reviewing the school, is reviewing the school as a whole. They're not looking at individual courses. They're not looking at individual programs in the school. They're looking at everything about that school, and the school itself is the thing that is earning accreditation. So after a school earns accreditation, then they are able to deliver academic programs and courses and everything that their school does that will hold value, that will hold accreditation, and ultimately hold credit for students in the U.S. system. So the school is the thing that gains the accreditation. There's an independent review process, meaning a third-party provider, which I'll talk about who those people are in a moment. And they will go through a review process of the school. It is standards based, so there are commonly agreed upon, widely accepted standards across all of accreditors, across all the schools in the US. on what standards a school should meet in order to gain that accreditation. And it is also an ongoing process, meaning it's not a one-time thing. It's not like I earned my accreditation and then, forever I'm accredited and I can do whatever I want after that. It is ongoing. So every year schools do self-reviews typically, and then every few years they are required to fully submit to the accreditor again to go through a comprehensive review. That's a very important piece to this, is that it is ongoing. And this entire process of gaining accreditation typically takes anywhere from about 9 months to 3 years. So it's not something that you can sign up for and do even in a few months. It is a very thorough, very long, and in-depth review process. So why does it matter? Yeah, so you've gained accreditation, the school has accreditation. Why is that important? Well, it's really everything when it comes to US schools. If you're not an accredited school, then you really are not holding much value in terms of a trigger or prestige for your families and your students. Uh, and specifically for students, coming from an accredited school, you're gaining credits that are recognized by other high schools in the US or abroad. They're recognized by colleges and universities in the US. So most colleges and universities will require students to have a diploma from an accredited high school. So that's quite important for students. Um, Students are also eligible for financial aid at colleges as well. That's another important thing, is when they're applying for scholarships or different financial aid, whether they're international or domestic, coming from an accredited school can be an important factor or a requirement for some scholarships. It also, is a trigger, gives you a competitive advantage, meaning um, you'll let universities or other high schools know that you were in a high quality program. For families, it's really an assurance of that educational quality. Going through that process ensures that the school is of high quality, so you're putting your student in a place that has a high level of standard, high level of quality. Um, and the last thing I want to say here is about transparent accountability for families. So transparent meaning typically accreditation reviews are public. Databases of accredited schools are public. Annual or self-review processes are typically made public, and that's a requirement of the accreditor. So there's not really a lot that's hidden in the school when it comes to accreditation and maintaining your accreditation later. So that's a pretty important piece as well, that transparent accountability. And then, for schools, of course, it helps the school to build their institutional really credibility. All right, so this is next I want to talk about the different types of accreditation. So it's important to know what's out there, because there's a lot out there, and I'm going to give you some specific names of accreditation organizations. But know that there are a lot. There are probably about almost 100 different accreditors in the United States. So it can sometimes be confusing to figure out which ones actually are important, which ones mean something. And down here, I note that there are regional accreditors, national, international, and then also even specialized accreditors. So now there's a lot out there. There's, like I mentioned, nearly 100, but I want to focus on two general groups. I want to focus on regional accreditors, and then what I would call as others, quote unquote, other accreditors. And these are national accreditors, international, or specialty kind of school accreditors. The first is regional accreditation. Now, if you're thinking about what I would call the gold standard or the most important, the most prestigious and historically significant accreditor, you should be looking at regional accreditors. And there are only a few of these in the United States. In fact, there are only six regional accreditors. And I have the examples listed here. So there are a lot of acronyms here. I know NEASC, WASC, NWAC, Middle States. These are essentially, they stand for different regions of the United States. So New England, Western, North, Middle, Southern. Um, these are different regions. Now, traditionally, they were responsible for accrediting schools in different regions. In recent years, they've opened up, and so they can accredit schools that are located anywhere now. But these are known as having the highest reputation among U.S. accreditors. If a school is accredited by a regional accreditor, then they are more or less meeting the highest level of accreditation that's available in the United States, and their diplomas and credits at these schools are going to be accepted anywhere, and you're reaching the level of accreditation that is the same as any traditional boarding school in the U.S., any college and university in the U.S. So this is really the highest level of accreditation that a school can have, and it's something you might want to look for when you're, assessing a school, right, for quality. And then on the right-hand side here is the national, international specialty accreditation. Now, in recent years, these accreditors have been gaining in popularity and prestige. And typically, these accreditors are accrediting schools and training programs nationally, but also internationally, and also specialized. So, for example, religious schools or faith-based schools or virtual schools as well, right? This is very, very popular in recent years. Are the growth of virtual schools. So we are in need now of accreditors for those schools. And some examples of these schools would be, or these creditors are Cognia, which is very grown in popularity internationally, Accredved, which is a virtual school accreditor, which I'll talk about, and the ATS, a faith-based accreditor. But typically these focus on, uh, you know, kind of specialty schools, right? Like faith-based or virtual, something like this. So these are the, two main groups. Again, there's a lot of accreditors out there that are doing a lot of great work, but I'd like to put these in two main groups. And I think the biggest one in the U.S. to really know about are these regional accreditors, because they sound like smaller region, but they actually are the most popular and the most widely accepted. All right, so I have five accrediting bodies up here, and again, this is just an example of five of them. So three on the top are regional accreditors. So we've got New England, which is Northeast, WASC, WASC, which is Western regional accreditor, Middle States, which is Middle Atlantic, and you see the states that they have traditionally focused on there. So those are examples of regional accreditors, and again, the highest level of accreditation that's known in the United States. Then on the bottom here, you have very popular specialty or other accreditors. So Cognia is formerly called Advanced, um, and they are very popular internationally. Very high quality creditor. They're known internationally, accepted by a lot of schools internationally, their credits. And so they're quite big now. And then Accredved, which is part of VLLA, which is Virtual Learning Leadership Alliance. And this is a virtual school accreditor. And the reason why this is important, or these kinds of accreditations are important now, is because we have lots of virtual schools that are starting, and typically they're, a lot of them are trying to get these other kinds of accreditations, but virtual schools are quite different than physical schools, and sometimes they need some specialty trigger to know that, well, what does quality look like in a virtual school versus a physical school? It can be different. Like the tools are different, the interactions are different, and so having these kinds of virtual school accreditors available now is quite powerful for virtual schools, especially like Polaris Global Academy, because they can tell a family or a partner that this school delivers a quality experience in this special environment, which is virtual. So some of these accreditors are coming up now. I think this one is probably the strongest and the best trigger of high quality virtual learning. And this is a US based accreditor. So these are some examples of major bodies. Now, just a quick note on how schools gain accreditation, just to give you an understanding of what that actually looks like. What does a school go through to earn this badge of honor? This is a visual representation of what a school goes through. And again, this process, like I mentioned, takes anywhere from 9 months to 3 years. So it takes quite a while. And it really starts by a school applying to a creditor and the creditor looking at that school to see, does that school meet some baseline requirements, and is the school ready to be accredited, right? That's actually one of the most important parts is, does the school even appear to be ready? Are they ready to be reviewed in that high level of detail? The second part is the part where that takes typically the most time, where the school is um, co conducting this in-depth self-review process, collecting lots of information and support and data about their school, and trying to figure out if their school matches all of the standards of quality that the accreditor puts in front of them. So, for example, Polaris Global Academy, our school, when we went through our accreditation, we were collecting information for, I think, about 65 different elements, what they're called indicators. And so we went through this very long process, many months of trying to understand for every single indicator, whether that's school governance or curriculum, and I'll show you all the different areas in a moment. How are we demonstrating that we are meeting high quality in all these areas, all 65 areas that they're going to look at? So it's quite intense. That's the self-study portion. Then typically we have this something called a peer review visit. Now it's not really an actual visit always. A lot of times it's virtual. A lot of times it happens over the course of a few weeks, but they call it a visit, which is where the accreditor really looks into detail and deeply at the school. I myself am a review member participating in these peer review visits for other schools now, where I'm going and reviewing that school to see if they meet the requirements of accreditation according to the standards. So this is that sort of visit process. And then the accreditor makes a decision, and then after that decision, then the school gains accreditation, and it begins that iterative process where they're reviewing themselves every year and then resubmitting every few years for to show that they are continuously improving. That's the process. And in that process, these are the things that the accreditor is looking at, right? So when I'm currently doing a review process for another school, I am looking at in depth at all of these different areas, and there are several, probably sometimes dozens of different indicators in each of these areas. So curriculum instruction, teaching quality, student support is very, very important. What kind of supports is the school providing, and sometimes what kind of minimum requirements does the school need to provide just to meet a baseline of being eligible for accreditation. That's a very important part. And the other thing I want to highlight here is student outcomes too. So, is the school actually tracking what their students are learning and the outcomes of what they're learning? Very, very important. And not to be lost in this is the governance and leadership of the school as well. We all know from, good leaders make good organizations. And so in this accreditation review process, the accreditors are also looking in a high level of detail at who runs the school? Who are these people that are delivering um, the classes and in charge of organizing everything at the school? So quite a lot of things that we look at. All right, so we're actually almost done here. I just want to show an example of Polaris Global Academy, our school. What do we have? It has a virtual school. What are the accreditations that we pursued, and what are some accreditations that you should probably be looking at if you're looking at a school, what should you be asking for? And what kind of accreditations should that school have? So this is a snapshot of our accreditation portfolio. So you'll notice here we've got four different accreditations. And when you're looking at a school, when you're talking to, thinking about enrolling your son or daughter in a school or talking to a school as a partner, um, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, we have accreditation." And the question that you should ask is, what accreditation, and can you show me your accreditation portfolio? Meaning, just having one accreditation from one organization sometimes doesn't really meet all the needs that you need. For example, at Polaris Global Academy, we pursued accreditation at AccredVed, which is a virtual school specific accreditation. This was very important to us so that we could show our families and our partners that we know what we're doing in in terms of delivering high quality virtual learning. Very, very important that uh, a virtual school has a virtual learning specific accreditation. It's very important. We have WASC accreditation, which is, if you recall, it's that the regional accreditation. They're one of the regional accreditors, and this is again the gold standard of accreditors in the United States, probably the most widely recognized um, and prestigious accreditation bodies in the United States. And so, typical to whatever any boarding school or university would have in the U.S. So that's the other thing you want to be looking for, a U.S. regional accreditor. So we've got the virtual school accreditation, the regional accreditation. We also have Cognia. We understand the importance of Cognia internationally. They're very well known internationally. They're accepted by many schools and organizations all over the world. And so this was an important accreditation for us too, because we are so international in our student body and our families. And then finally, there are some other specialty accreditations that schools might need depending on where the student is coming from. And one that PGA has is NCAA. So, meaning students who are athletes who are considering to do college sports in the US, they need to have gone through a program and gotten credit from or diploma from a school that has NCAA approved curriculum. Uh, that's very important to a student athlete because if they don't have that, then they will not have eligibility to do sports in college, meaning they will not have uh, received a diploma from an approved uh, uh, high school that meets that keeps their eligibility. So it's very important if you have a student athlete that the school or the program that you're going through is NCAA approved. So this is our portfolio. There are a few very important things here that you should be looking for and asking for if you're working with any school partner. And just to give you an idea of what PGA does, so this is PGA. We mimic very much the experience of a traditional like day or boarding school. So that's why accreditation was super important to us because we are providing a U.S. diploma program, a middle school course, which is not credit bearing. So both of those things we are providing. Uh, we have we're using outside curriculum like AP curriculum and career courses. We have live group classes. We have self-paced classes. So lots of different formats. We also provide, tutoring to our students, that's 24/7 on demand. So all of these different aspects, it was very important that we're getting a range of accreditations, both virtual school, the, traditional accreditation, because we're doing so much at the school and, it was very important to us that we have all of those triggers across all of those different aspects. And then some very important aspects of our student support and engagement that went a long way in our accreditation, right? So our flexibility, our community, our success coaches for students. So this is a snapshot just of what Polaris Global Academy is, and hopefully that um, sets the stage for why we would pursue all of those accreditations. Um, and so this is it. This is the end of my talk, and I just want to summarize with a few key takeaways. First is accreditation is it's independent, quality standards based and school based, meaning a school is accredited, not a program or a course. Regional accreditors are the gold standards, so places like WASC or New England NEASC, these ones are really the gold standard in the U.S. Virtual schools should, I think, also have an accreditation from a virtual specific accreditation just to verify that they are high quality in the environment that they're teaching, which is specifically virtual schools. And then, just a summary of what PGA holds there. So that's all I have for today. I hope that was somewhat informative, but if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to type them to ask me. I'll hang out here for a few minutes.
Kevin, can you share the website that everybody can check the accreditation from PGA? That would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah. So you mean the databases that the creditors provide?
Yes.
Absolutely. You know what I can do actually? I can share them here, and then um, I will also share them along with the recording. I think that will be helpful, so people can actually search those databases, right? Because actually, that's another good thing to mention, Kwong, is oftentimes when school states they're accredited, it's quite easy to check a public database. A lot of the accreditors have these public databases that um, they keep updated so that you can just easily publicly search for that school to confirm that what they said is actually true. Um, I just put in the chat here the registry for Cognia, and you can go to that registry and type in the school that you're looking for, and uh, you'll find the school. And I'm also going to put in the one for WASC, Directory of Schools. Here. Yep. So you can search those databases, and the other accreditors have databases as well that you can search. But thanks for asking that. Any other questions for me?